from a border security perspective, this proposal is an absolute failure.
Judge Amy Berman Jackson says there is sufficient evidence to say that Manafort broke his plea deal with Robert Mueller by lying, but the ruling certainly hurts Paul Manafort's odds of getting a reduced sentence.
New numbers. 57% of voters have a positive opinion of capitalism. That is more than twice the number who feel the same way about socialism.
Only capitalism has lifted billions of people from poverty.
To all of law enforcement, we will never forget your service, and we will never, ever let you down.
Melania Trump will spend Valentine's Day warming hearts at a children's hospital, making cards and decorating cookies with many of the kids.
Is in the lighting.
How cool is that?
Lighting booth right now because we are adorned in red because today is Valentine's Day 2019. It's February 14th.
We said goodbye to Galentine's Day yesterday. Today is Valentine's.
What is Galentine's Day?
Where your gals celebrate. Or your guys. I guess you could call it Galentine's.
You don't have to have somebody of the opposite sex in
right.
in
you
your
celebrate
life.
Your friends.
There you go.
Two holidays are picking up steam in America, Halloween and Valentine's Day. I feel as though Valentine's Day was not a big deal, and I think every year it gets bigger and bigger.
Valentine's Day I think has been pretty big at our house for a long time.
Really?
And
you don't think
Halloween
it's bigger
was
now?
always big.
Really? I think
you don't like Halloween.
The reason we all know Brian hates Halloween. Hadn't dressed up since he was 4.
Yeah, last time I had a costume on, it was controversial. Now it's controversial. I was Christopher Columbus. Now all of a sudden people be protesting me in 3rd grade.
I was Columbus in 2nd grade.
You get out of here.
Yeah,
Were
at
you
the school
really?
assembly.
They were at a Ponce de Leon.
Y'all are some wild and crazy Halloween dressers.
No, I know. It was, and I was wearing tights. That's a long story. No pictures exist.
Tough getting out.
You're learning more and more about these guys.
Because it is Valentine's Day, we've got two of our favorite chains in the entire world are going to be here. We've got Chick-fil-A. They've got something special for Valentine's Day. And we've got Dunkin' Donuts, and they're bringing along some basketball
and
cakes.
we have a wedding. Someone's getting married on our show.
Right, for a very good reason. A bridal chain down in the Philly area, went bankrupt. And so they had hundreds of dresses. Eventually, they went to the county. They've been in cold storage, and they've opened it up. Hundreds of brides have decided, you know what, we would love one of those free dresses. They've stipulated the dresses have got to go to military families. And today, we've got just that on tap for us.
Right, and of course we have a history with wedding dresses because we helped Geraldo almost win The Apprentice by buying wedding dresses at a wedding dress store.
We did.
And who was the host of The Apprentice? The President of the United States.
There you go.
Yes, I remember that. That was before I was anchoring with y'all, and y'all were on there donating money.
Yeah, on a Saturday.
The president no longer an apprentice. He's actually the POTUS. And, and we got him in our lead story. It's a Fox News alert on this Valentine's Day. The text of the bipartisan border security bill has been released, and man, it is a mile long.
Yes, over 1,000 pages. The big question now, will the president sign it if it passes the House and Senate?
That's the big question. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, where lawmakers have a lot of reading to do. Griff, shutdown could be tomorrow. Do they have time to read all this?
Well, I'm not sure about that. Happy Valentine's Day to you. You know, the president said he wanted to see the final product. Well, here you go. This is the final product. 1,159 pages of light reading. The president says he doesn't want to shut the government down, but he's approaching this with caution.
We'll be looking for landmines, because you could have that. You know, it's been known to happen before to people.
So what's in this? Let's take a look. $2.37 billion total in border security funding, of which $1.375 billion for, quote, fencing in the RGV sector, $725 million for technology, $270 million for facility improvements. But remember, it does have a path to reduction in ICE detention beds. But that's not all that we see here. Some highlights, as noted in a press release put out by one of the architects of the bill, Democratic Congresswoman Nita Lowey, who's the chairwoman of the House Appropriations Committee, says it also has a 1.9% pay raise to federal civilian workers, which she notes, quote, overrides the president's decision to deny them. It has $3.8 billion invested in the census, which is a $1 billion increase, she notes, to, quote, combat the administration's assault on the census, and it has $9.3 billion in EPA and Land and Water Conservation Fund. Meanwhile, Democrats are encouraging him to sign off, both Schumer and Pelosi, saying you can't always get what you want. Get on board. Actually, lawmakers on both sides appear confident that it probably will pass, with some rejections. The voting is going to start, guys, in the Senate, actually, because of a funeral, and it'll finish in the House likely tonight to pave way for his signature of this, the 1,159 pages.
Right. Are you going to refill the paper for Bret Baier? Because when he comes in, he hates doing that.
How many times did you have to refill to print that out?
That's about
twice,
3 reams.
At least twice. Yeah, it's 3 reams.
Several
Whatever
reams,
was in there the first time.
Well, President says he's going to read
Thank
through that whole thing to make sure there aren't any landmines.
I doubt that the president's actually going to wind up reading
His
that.
staff.
I doubt that anybody.
Mick Mulvaney will read it.
Well, I don't know.
Nancy Pelosi, after it passes.
Well, you have to pass it before you
can read
what's in it. It sounds like there are a number of liberals who are going to vote no because there's money for a border barrier in there, and they hate that idea. The president, we have heard, you know, this is not the deal he wanted. It sounds like he's going to go for some plan B. Could be an executive action. Could be declaring a national emergency. Lindsey Graham said yesterday, let the president declare it a national emergency and then let the Democrats argue that it's not one. That would be a good argument to hear.
Well, Mark Morgan, we've had him on a bunch. He was the former Border Patrol chief under President Obama. He says this new border security proposal is an absolute failure.
From a border security perspective, this proposal is an absolute failure. They not only didn't listen to the experts on the tools and resources they needed, they have absolutely rejected that. And one thing I want to add that's very important American people need to understand, what they're doing with ICE beds. So think about this. This proposal reduces the ICE beds, and I'm not a mathematician, but reduces the ICE beds. As you just pointed out, illegal immigration is skyrocketing. Again, you don't have to be a mathematician. What does that mean? Catch and release 2.0. They're going to have to release them.
We'll see, because there is a formula in there that says they will be able to increase and be able to add to what they have already. I know Tom Homan also feels what Mark Morgan feels, that this is a bad deal and we shouldn't sign it. However, the president's build 6 miles of wall has already just gone up. He's going to get 44 from 2017. He's got 55 here, and the sense is he will sign this bill tonight and then go over here with some type of reprogramming of money to add to it right away, causing a little bit of controversy. In the meantime, while the controversy happens through the courts or wherever, the president can still build the 55 miles that's in there. So it's enough that and no one really feels like they own the bill. You ask Nancy Pelosi, it's not her bill. You ask Lowy, it's not her bill. You ask the president, it's certainly not his bill. So it's somewhat of a compromise. And I think that Rush Limbaugh said it best yesterday. Mr. President, sign this, go back. And get more. It shows you're continuing on what you promised.
All right, well, we've heard about what the lawmakers want, what the president wants, but they're in office because of you, so we wanted to know what the people think. Fox News did a poll, and 66% of the majority of voters favored a deal including a border barrier, non-barrier security measures, and humanitarian aid for the detainees.
You know what? When you look at that favor, 66%, that is a supermajority in Congress. So a supermajority of Americans are actually for what the president has run on, and that's good for him going forward. Not good for people who are saying, look, we don't need a border barrier, we don't need that stuff. But that is one of the tenets of the president's original appeal from a couple of years ago. Now what the president's been talking a lot about, whether it was at the State of the Union or at his rally in El Paso, he's been talking about how this nation will never be a nation of socialism. Fox News also asked folks about socialism, and capitalism creams it.
Yeah, 57% support capitalism versus socialism, only 25%.
Right. It seems like the next generation seems to like the concept, but maybe doesn't understand what socialism is, perhaps. But you have a lot of this theme among freshmen, certain freshmen on the Democratic side who seem to be against what's happening in America in our past foreign policy. If you saw what happened to Elliott Abrams on Capitol Hill, and of course what you've seen with the rollout of the new the Green Deal. Dennis Prager is a big picture and a big thinker. He looks at what America's been and what it's not, and he says we have to understand how great, if imperfect, capitalism is.
Problem is this. It's to me, everything ultimately is a moral question, not a political one. I ask only one thing. What has lifted humanity out of poverty? There is only one answer to that question, and that answer is capitalism. So you cannot love humanity and love socialism. It is not possible. They are mutually exclusive. Only capitalism has lifted billions of people from poverty. These people are fools who are floating the idea of socialism. It means contempt for humanity and love of ideas.
If you want an example, look at the mess which is Venezuela right now, one of the hotspots and ugliest places in the world, because they flipped their government, which was not the purest form of capitalism, but this pure form of socialism has destroyed that nation and created chaos in and around the other nations.
You know, you look at the next election, it's going to be a binary choice, whether it is regarding borders. One party clearly for barriers, the other is for more open borders. And then when it comes to socialism versus capitalism, will that be another thing people will be voting on? Right now, it looks like yes.
Well, in that poll, 55% of the folks said to the government, leave me alone. And that number is higher than it has been in the past. It was 51% last year. So more and more people are hearing this message of socialism. They're seeing what's happening in Venezuela. They're saying we don't want that here.
And Steve and I are used to hearing that from you, right, at 9:01. Leave me alone.
Leave me alone, Brian.
Absolutely. Because it is Valentine's Day, we would love to see your pictures of your Valentine's Days in the past. It'd make it a Throwback Thursday. Email us friends@foxnews.com, or we're also on Facebook, as is Jillian.
That's right. Good morning. Let's get you caught up on a story, a tragic story we've been following out of New York. First responders honor a fallen NYPD detective as a procession takes his body home to Long Island. Services for Detective Brian Simonson will begin Monday before he's laid to rest on Wednesday. Simonson was shot and killed by friendly fire during a robbery in New York City. A sergeant was also hit but is expected to survive. A suspect charged with murder is recovering after being shot by police. Detective Simonson, whose nickname was Smiles, is remembered as someone who would, quote, do anything for anyone. He leaves behind a wife and 2 kids. Paul Manafort's plea deal is now void. A federal judge ruling the former Trump campaign manager intentionally lied to special counsel Robert Mueller and made false statements to the FBI and a grand jury. The decision likely means Manafort will be up for a harsher sentence at his hearing next month. Manafort's lawyers say he did not lie. California Governor Gavin Newsom firing back at President Trump over returning federal funding for the scrapped bullet train plan. Newsom tweeting, quote, this is California's money allocated by Congress for the project. We're not giving it back. The train is leaving the station. Better get on board. Also desperately searching for some wall money. His response after President Trump tweeted California owes, quote, the federal government $3.5 billion. So see what happens there. Melania Trump will spend Valentine's Day warming hearts at a Children's Hospital. The First Lady will participate in activities with young patients from the Children's Inn at the National Institute of Health in Maryland. She visited the same hospital last Valentine's Day to make cards, decorate cookies, and, of course, spend time with the kids. Help make their day special.
No kidding. And everybody gets to make the cookies, and everybody gets a Valentine's from the First Lady.
And then hopefully gets to eat the cookies.
Well, you gotta hope. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jillian.
Priorities.
President Trump praising our law enforcement during a sheriff's conference in Washington.
I've come to deliver a very important message from the American people to you. Thank you.
Sheriff Grady Judd was there and got a special shout out, and he is live to tell us about it next.
And one officer lending a helping hand to a little boy in the pouring rain. The sweet photo's gone viral this morning. We'll give you details. You're watching Fox and Friends Valentine's Day 2019.
Nike's gonna like that.
I saw that too, yeah.
Law enforcement. We will not tolerate smears or slanders or assaults on those who wear the badge. I've come to deliver a very important message from the American people to you. Thank you.
They got the president hailing our nation's law enforcement while doubling down on his promise to build the wall and protect the American people. Our next guest was at the conference and actually got a shout out from the president at one point. Here with more is Sheriff Grady Judd of Polk County, Florida. He is also the president of the Major County Sheriff's Association. Sheriff, thank you very much for joining us live.
It's my honor to be with you this morning. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So what was the president's message to you all yesterday?
The president's message was one of unity and support. Do you know law enforcement across this nation have been under attack? And the President of the United States has stood up the last 3 years when we were in D.C. for these conferences and said, I support you, I've got your back. And he makes it abundantly clear. He sends the same message over and over that he helps us so we can keep the community safe. And that's what it's all about. We're here to make sure we have a safe democracy, a safe community. And the president saying that over and over is remarkably important to us and to the communities we serve.
Surely. Of course, we've seen some frustration from the president. He's trying to get more wall money from Congress. It doesn't look like he's going to get everything he wants, but nonetheless, he has made that a central point of his campaign and his presidency as well. He's trying to give the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol more money for them to fight the trouble that faces the country.
Well, what's important about this is he's not building this wall or this barrier or whatever the political term is for himself. This is all about keeping the people of the United States safe. I could stand here for the next 5 hours and give you example after example of illegal aliens in this country preying on everyone from our very youngest children, where they've raped them, to murders. So when the president fights like this, understand he's fighting for all of us. He wants a safe and a secure community, and it starts with getting the illegal aliens out of this country and not allowing them back in.
Well, unfortunately for him, he would like to get more money for more wall, but that's not going to happen. It sounds like he's going to sign that bill today. It only gives him a fraction of the mileage, but it's better than nothing. Sheriff, thank you very much for joining us today. And as the president said yesterday to everybody in attendance, thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. And if those that vote today had to work a shift on the border last night, it would be a lot different.
You are absolutely right about that. All right. Sheriff Grady Judd, thank you, sir.
Take care.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead, more than 8 years after his murder, there is justice for Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, the man who shot him, now convicted of killing him. Brian's brother calls it a bittersweet victory. He will join us live coming up next. City council members voting to remove the statue from a cemetery, which would cost the city nearly $500,000. The removal must now be approved by the city's Landmark Commission. We keep you posted. All right, Ainsley, Brian.
All right. Thank you, Steve. In December of 2010, Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, there's his picture, was killed in the line of duty, protecting our southern border. His death causing a national outcry while also revealing the Fast and Furious operation.
On Tuesday, the man responsible for pulling that trigger was convicted of first-degree murder and other charges. Here to react is his brother, Kent Terry. Kent, good to see you again. Your reaction to at least somebody getting charged for this?
Well, you know, it was an emotional week for us. But you know what? When the verdict was read that he was, you know, found guilty, it was some little bit of emotional closure for us. But we're heading in the right direction, trying to get closure. So.
Ken, it's sad because we have a list of 17 other Border Patrol agents that have been killed since your brother's death. Those folks we're remembering this morning, too. It's just so tragic. What do you say to the Border Patrol agents that are out there risking their lives every single day to protect our country?
You know, I can't say enough. I mean, these guys they're dedicated 150%. They put their families second to protect this soil here, and they need to be recognized a lot more than what they are. So.
Yeah. Ken, the other thing is, there's other people here up on charges for the death of your brother as part of an elite Border Patrol unit. The other thing is, you want to find out more information on Fast and Furious and the other circumstances to your brother getting shot and killed.
Yeah, you know, my family does, because you got to stop and think these guys were armed by our Heraclios and ours. And it's sad that it's going on 9 years now, and my family still hasn't got any closure.
Well, I mean, someone knows. Someone knows who was behind Fast and Furious. Someone should be held accountable. Will we put guns into the hands of would-be known drug cartel members in order to track them and find out about their movements? So no one's even been charged with this. It seems like Eric Holder stiff-armed the whole investigation.
Exactly. Not even nobody in the ATF's been held accountable. Not even a slap on the hand. I mean, these guys are still carrying a badge and a gun, making decisions. They were involved in this reckless scandal. And and that's why I call on President Trump to meet with my family, tell my family either he's going to help us or he's not. I mean, it's going on long enough. My family needs closure.
And in order to get that closure, you want to see all the documents?
Yes, all of the documents and who's responsible and why nobody's been held accountable. It's getting ridiculous now. So.
On another note, Kent, as we debate the use of a border wall and border barrier, where do you stand on that?
I'm all for the wall. I know we can't do it 100% across the border because of mountain terrains and stuff like that. I understand that, but at least can funnel it down to where we can put more boots and more resources in those sections where we can't put a wall. But I taught these guys, I mean, they want to go home at night. And I mean, it's a war down there that a lot of people don't see and recognize unless they're impacted by it.
And you are, and so is your family even to this day. All right, so we'll see what happens with the others that are put up on charges, but at least you have one conviction, and we'll continue to keep the dialogue open with you and your family.
And he'll be sentenced on April 29th.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kent. We hope your family gets that closure that you're seeking so badly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, 28 minutes after the top of the hour. This video is crazy. A woman throws a chair from a high-rise into rush hour traffic, and now police want her to take a seat behind bars.
Of course. Plus, Senator Bob Menendez seeing red after being asked about the Green New Deal.
That's right, but first we got our shot of the morning. Take a look at the coffee table right here. We're celebrating Valentine's Day with our friends from Dunkin' Donuts have brought in a whole bunch of stuff.
This is so innovative. Look at that.
Look at this is the bouquet. I know, that's pretty cool.
This is
genius.
Take a look at this. This is a
That's
donut
perfect for the
bouquet.
man in your life. I would love that, right?
But this sounds amazing.
Okay,
this is a brownie
the cookie
batter
dough.
filled.
Cookie dough,
Right?
brownie batter filled.
Take a bite of that, Steve.
Made by people in the mysterious back of Dunkin' Donuts, what we never get to see.
Did you give us the brownie batter?
Oh, really good. It was the brownie batter in the middle?
Well, if you have your cookie dough from the
wow.
Wow. Use that.
That is fantastic. And then if you just want heart shape, this one is chocolate covered and Boston cream inside, and this one is jelly.
Right.
That's so good.
And by the way, if it's 11 o'clock at night and you walk into a Dunkin' Donuts, they're most likely going to give you those donuts because you can't use heart days on February 15th.
And if you buy the donuts, then you get Valentine's Day cards from them. And this one says, I love you, a latte. That's how I feel about all of y'all.
That's fantastic. Kate, I think we got something from behind door number 1, don't we?
What is it?
Take a look at
could
this.
it be?
Oh, what a shock.
What could it be?
There we go. Happy Valentine's
You
Day,
are
ladies.
so sweet.
Oh, thank
I've been
you.
growing this for a year.
Our TV husbands. Thanks so much, gentlemen.
Are you overwhelmed
aren't
with
they
the
the
love?
best? I love you, a latte.
Thank you very much.
I love you, a latte.
Steve, I can't
Thank
reach
you.
you.
Thank you.
Brian,
So sweet.
This is the special chocolate and cherry ice cream.
Did you know, I didn't know this until this morning, that Dunkin' and Baskin-Robbins are the same company.
You did not know that?
Never knew that.
Did you think they happen to be sharing the same store across America?
They do share the store, in a lot of
I never really
locations.
thought about
How
it.
bad do you feel when you go in and it's like, I'd like a coffee and a smoothie? The guy's like, oh, great. He's got to go over and turn on the blender.
Gotta go-
Leave like a line of 25
Heaven
people out the
forbid
door.
he walked to both sides of the counter.
It's a pain in the neck.
You go to Dunkin' Donuts first thing in the morning, and then later in the day you go for the
This is
ice
their
cream.
Valentine's cherry cordial.
Yeah.
And it tastes like cherry cordials.
And
my grandmother loved.
Steve will have it with him
It
for a
looks
while.
just like that.
I know.
Anyway, if you're looking for something to take into the office or to work or to school today, drop by Dunkin' Donuts. They've got all sorts of sweet.
Or drop by
I
our
know.
set. We
Thank you,
probably
guys.
have some extra.
There won't be any left.
No, there
Forget
won't
about
be.
it.
I promise you that.
All right, it's 25 minutes before the top of the hour, and Jillian, in addition to the candy and the
And the
flowers, has the headline.
Yes, I can do that for you. Let's get you caught up on some of the stories that we're following right now, starting with this. One of the women accusing Virginia's lieutenant governor of sexual assault will meet with prosecutors to discuss her claims. Vanessa Tyson's lawyer says a time for that meeting has not been set. She says Justin Fairfax sexually assaulted her 15 years ago in Boston. In a statement, the Democrat says he's open to a full, fair, and non-political investigation. So you've heard of Sanctuary Joya. She's accused of tossing 2 chairs off the 45th floor of a condo in Toronto and posting the video on social media. No one was hurt, but the 19-year-old is facing several charges. That is scary. And a heartwarming moment of a police officer going above and beyond the badge, and it is now going viral. The sweet snapshot shows Officer Will Miller walking a little boy to school in the pouring rain. You can see him sheltering the student with an umbrella in Louisiana. Gotta love that. Send it back to you.
It's really sweet of him.
All right. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. We learned in the last 48 hours that Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate, is going to get every U.S. senator to officially declare whether they think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal is a good idea. Yesterday, one of the senators was asked by a card-carrying member of the press whether or not he thought it was a good idea.
The Daily Caller was the member of the press that just asked the senator what most senators get asked by reporters, questions about the news of the day. But when he realized it was the Daily Caller speaking to him, he suddenly realized he had nothing to say.
Here's that conversation between Daily Caller and Senator Menendez from the great state of New Jersey.
I'm wondering why you won't answer questions on the new Green Deal.
I won't answer questions to the Daily Caller, period. You're trash.
Why do you think we're trash, sir?
Don't keep harassing me.
Called it trash. According to the reporter, Henry Rogers, he has never interacted with Menendez before until he said he was working on this Green New Deal story and wanted to figure out what it was. After Menendez was criticized for threatening to call the cops, Menendez's spokesperson defended him and called it gotcha journalism. But a number of people in the press said, this is a member of the press who carries a card to represent the press in the U.S. Congress. You shouldn't threaten them with calling the cops on them.
Said the same thing to Rob when Rob went up to him when he was on vacation in Puerto Rico while the government was shut down. You would think somebody who just got 6 more years, despite being brought up in the most embarrassing ethics violations possible, would be so grateful to have a job that he'd be open to all questions. But instead, he's even become more thin-skinned.
Yeah, you're right. He did. Rob went up to him to talk to him down when he was in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
The pictures of him on the beach.
Oh, where are you from? I have to run.
Right.
Keep in mind what Senator Amy Klobuchar said to Brett the other night. He goes, we should be willing to come on to Fox and take all questions, whether it's uncomfortable or not. And he obviously didn't get that memo in New Jersey.
Well, Amy, it was a call. It's not like this reporter was trespassing on his property.
Answer the question.
No,
he's Capitol Hill.
He's got a press card. He should be able to ask a member of Congress a question. But ultimately, what it comes down to is, ladies and gentlemen, Exhibit A. Members of the U.S. Senate do not want to go on record as to whether or not they approve of or are okay with the Green New Deal.
Why? It seems so
problematic.
It's so promising. Especially, how unbelievable is it that Gavin Newsom shelves his high-speed train the week after they introduce high-speed trains as the wave of the future as we ground all planes.
And he wants to keep the federal government's money
$3 billion
in California. And the president was saying, no, I want that money back.
Well, and in the Green New Deal, it talks about high-speed rail.
Yes.
I still have some donut with me. But here's the thing. The irony is, I believe that the reporter talked to Mr. Menendez right next to that underground rail line that the senators take to and from the U.S. Senate. So that's right there. That's what
that
we're talking
worked
about instead of the high-speed train.
It's true. Judge is ready. Judge is ready to go. So he is waiting for us. So let's read the teams.
All right. It is 40 minutes after the top of the hour. Still ahead, Tim Tebow is going to be here live in our studio coming up.
Plus, the Senate Intel Committee has no evidence of collusion, but that's not stopping House Democrats from planning even more Trump investigations. Is this just becoming presidential harassment? The president...
Health headlines, starting with this. Smoking pot as a teen could affect your mental health as an adult. According to a new study, it could increase the risk of depression by 40%. Teen marijuana use also increases suicidal thoughts in adulthood by 50%. The study does not prove cannabis causes depression. And to keep your sweetheart healthier this Valentine's Day, consider picking up some dark chocolate. Doctors say it's loaded with antioxidants and has more nutritional value than other kinds of chocolate. Americans eat nearly 3 billion pounds of chocolate every year. That's a lot of chocolate, Brian.
That's right. Don't forget the red wine.
All right. Thanks, Julian, even though you didn't officially toss to me. We'll talk about it later. Oh, she did? Really? I couldn't tell.
He
Really?
just wasn't listening.
All right, fine. I was talking to the judge. All right, meanwhile, the Senate Intel Committee finding no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia despite 2 years and some 200 interviews. Although the Senate hasn't actually wrapped it all up yet. But that's not stopping House Democrats from their plan to aggressively ramp up Trump-related investigations.
The American people have a right to know, indeed have a need to know, that their president is acting on their behalf and not for some pecuniary or other reason. That pertains to any credible allegations of leverage by the Russians.
Okay, here's the reaction. Fox News senior judicial analyst and host of Liberty File on Fox Nation, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, I saw that yesterday some top Republicans in the House are calling on Democrats to explain why they have hired these anti-Trump consultants on the taxpayer dime. Clearly, they're looking at trying to make this as uncomfortable a 2 years for the president as possible.
You're exactly right. They believe, and I've spoken to so many Democrats, even some of our colleagues here, they believe that there's a substantial part of their constituency that wants them to drive Donald Trump crazy, irrespective of the outcome in 2020. So in doing a little research, I didn't know this statute existed, I have to tell you. How can they possibly get his tax returns? The chair of the Senate Finance Committee and the chair of the corresponding House Committee can send a letter to the Secretary of the Treasury and get anybody's tax
You're not going to get that from the Senate.
Well, they're not going to get it from the Senate. We're talking about the statute allows either side to do, each side to do it. The Democrats are the ones that are going to do this. Why would they want to publicize private information that there are many, many, many statutes that keep it private? They can do this to you. They can do it to me.
Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes.
Correct.
And the president says this is harassment, is it?
It is a form of harassment, but there's nothing anybody can do about it. This is just the way the Democrats are. When will this stop? When public sentiment has said enough is enough. If the public's behind this, the Democrats can go.
Well, instead of being on defense, is there something he can do to be on offense?
You know, the types of rallies that he holds, that's probably what he ought to do. Build up public resistance to it is the best he can do, because under the Constitution and under the statutes, they do have the authority to do this. I think it's profoundly unwise. When they said to me, what do you think we should do? I said, compromise with the president and legislate. Oh, no, we have to investigate, not legislate.
But here's what bothers me. Fast and Furious was an issue. Iran-Contra was an issue. Valerie Plame, 7 words, uranium, they were an issue.
Yeah, what's the issue here?
Now they're being in search of an issue. There's got to be something that he has done in the 80s and 90s and 2000s that's affecting who he favors and doesn't favor on the world stage. That is not okay.
I agree with you, but there are apparently, in the minds of Congressman Schiff and his colleagues, such a voracious appetite for this amongst Democratic base, that they want to feed it. So the president is beefing up the White House legal counsel with some very, very smart and experienced people. Yes, he is. As of this afternoon, I believe, he'll have a very, very fine, experienced attorney general running the 90,000 people in the DOJ, William Barr. You may actually see some substantial resistance on the part of the White House.
But don't you think, Judge, the fact that, you know, if we are coming to a conclusion with the Mueller stuff, and if it turns out there is no collusion with Russia, which we heard from Burr a couple of days ago, there is none. Aren't people going to just go, okay, I heard the Democrats say for 2 years there was, now there's not. Now I've got Russia collusion fatigue syndrome.
That's why, you know how Reagan, when he dealt with Democratic Congresses, when Congresses would go over their heads to the people, that's what the president needs to do.
Real quick, what happened with Paul Manafort yesterday? They found that his deal blew up because he wasn't being candid with the Mueller investigation.
Here's what they did with Paul Manafort. I never heard of this before. They had him testify before the same grand jury that indicted him, and then a federal judge found that he lied to that grand jury. This tells me that...
Not on all counts, though, right?
No. Of the 5 alleged lies, she found that he committed 3. This tells me, A, he's exposed to more than 20 years in jail. That is so much jail time, he might very well be a candidate for a pardon, and the public might accept the pardon. It also tells me, B, Mueller is still on the hunt.
All right. There you go. Judge, thank you very much. Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
That B means Mueller
I'm waiting
continues.
for a kiss from Brian.
Not on camera. Plus, I'm Irish. I have trouble with affection. 11
Wait, you're half Italian.
That's true, too. That's the counter-argument. Straight ahead, the president's team pouring through bipartisan border deals right now. Chris Kobach says Democrats may have buried poison pills in the 1,100 pages. He's here live next hour.
Plus, would you message your crush to get a date on Valentine's Day? It is the newest texting challenge. Carly Shimkus is here with the biggest Valentine's trends coming up.
It's News Channel 115, headlines 24/7. Carly, what's going on here? Spending more for less people.
So this is actually a story about the economy, because the more money you have in your pocket, the more you're going to be able to spend on chocolates, flowers, dinner, maybe diamonds. You never know. And it looks like a lot of people are spending money on diamonds, because on This year, Americans are expected to spend, get this figure, $20.7 billion
on Valentine's Day.
On Valentine's Day. Can you believe that?
That's a lot of Valentines and flowers and candies that will last a week.
Yeah, that's why you got to go with the diamond. Because it lasts forever.
Yeah.
All the men out there.
Not all the diamonds. Some cubic zirconium have an expiration date.
Sometimes they do look very real, though, right?
If it's a CZ, it's not a diamond.